Thanks for joining us today. We're here with Davis, the director of Pitch Hub in the UK, and we're going to talk about investor readiness and quite a few other little bits and pieces, give you some tips and tricks if you're looking for investment, what you actually need to do, why you need to do it. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of personal questions in there as well, so to get an understanding of how Davis actually ticks. And we'll have hopefully a great discussion about what that's going to look like. When entrepreneurs, come to you for money, you don't actually have the money. You just get them ready to try and find the money.
Absolutely.
And then the partners that come in to give them the money and stuff like that. What makes your service or your business? Why is it so important to get people ready for investment? So why don't they just go straight to the investor?
Oh, well, that's a very good question. That's a very, very good question. Well, the reason why it doesn't make sense to just go straight to an investor is because the mindset for running a business is different from the mindset for bringing in investors into your business. So essentially what I'm saying is how a founder thinks about their business is completely different from how investors thinks about a business. So there are two different mindsets, two different perspectives, but operating on the same subject matter. And as a business, for example, the reason why we exist is because on the one hand, there are no shortage of founders that are looking for money. On the other hand, there is no shortage of money that is looking for founders, but so few deals happen. The founders want the money, the investors have the money to give to the founders, but the deals aren't happening. Why? And the more we dug into that, the more we realize that there is what we have codified as an information and expectation asymmetry that exists between both parties. They are working with different sets of data. For investors, let's come at this from an investor perspective for starters. For investors, although they're looking to invest in a business, they're not just looking to invest in a business that is making money. It's deeper beyond that. For an investor, it's fundamentally an asset class. So they're investing in an asset. They're evaluating the business as an asset. An entrepreneur doesn't look at their business as an asset. An entrepreneur looks at their business as their passion, their livelihood, their baby, essentially. So investors are quite clear around the parameters that the assets must meet in order for them to invest. The founders do not know that. Even when they are really well experienced, really savvy entrepreneurs, if you've not raised capital before, you've not gone on that journey before, you don't know what the expectations are. A typical example is this. So you could have a very good business that is turning over £2 million a year, maybe even profitable to the tune of, say, £300,000 in terms of profit, so more than 10%. And everything looks good, and they're going, oh, we need to expand, and we need to raise some capital. An investor might take a look at that business and go, this is not investable, right? It's not about the revenue, it's not about the profit. Those things count in certain instances, but there are some core prerequisites. And so, essentially, there are three fundamental things that makes any business investable. The first is that the business is viable. So yes, you should have some revenue, you should have some profit. But the second is that there's a sizable market opportunity that creates room for exponential growth. And number three is that there's a credible team that can deliver on that promise. An investor looks at those three things in a business and they go, are these things present? And if those things are not present, we don't have an investable asset. So there's so many things in between what an investor thinks, what a founder thinks, that needs to be reconciled before the founder goes to the investor.
Okay, so what do you see? Okay, well, there's a couple of parts here. One, I want to know what you think is a measure of your success. What does success look like for you? Then secondly, what does success look like for clients? Obviously, if you're getting funding readiness, then obviously funding is a measure of success.
Absolutely.
But there has to be something else behind that, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So, so that it's not just all about money.
Absolutely.
Because in my experience, not many businesses succeed if it's just about money.
Absolutely.
Right. So, if you can explain.
Yeah. So start. Starting with what success looks like for our client. So for us as a business, even in the methodology that we deploy when we're working with clients, there are two dimensions. There is investability, and then there is investment readiness. The first layer of work we do with clients is getting them investable. That is making them an investable asset. The investment readiness part is the part where we then put the polish on the asset so that it looks attractive to an investor. So for us, when we work with entrepreneurs, money obviously is if they're looking to raise capital, like rightly identified, that's the primary objective. So if they raise, fantastic. But even when they do not raise, the work that we do with them helps them to build a thriving, viable, financially sustainable business. Because one of the things that we point out with founders is investors will chase you when your business is a great business to invest in. Now, what makes your business a great business to invest in is a great business, right? So even when you don't get the investment, your business will be built and set up in a way that you can continue to thrive, you can continue to grow, based on whatever your core metrics are. So for us, it's always a point of consideration to make sure that the work that we do with founders leaves them with a better business. Now, whether or not an investor sees it as the right timing to put money into them, that's a different subject matter entirely. So that's for clients. And for me, for me personally, or as a business.
Well, you personally would be great.
Okay, so
because we start to get to understand, what is the motivation.
So, for me personally, I am fulfilled on a daily basis. So fundamentally, there are a couple of measures. I strongly believe and have no doubt whatsoever about the fact that the reason why God has put me on this earth is literally to do exactly what I'm doing, working with entrepreneurs. As a business, our mission is to stimulate growth in entrepreneurs, their enterprises, and the ecosystems within which they operate. And that became the mission of the business because that is my mission, right? And so all the work I've ever done through my career and the work that I still do and carry on doing is built around helping entrepreneurs, helping them achieve growth, and by extension, helping their businesses. By extension, influence the ecosystems. I am a nation builder at heart, and everything I do stems from that lens. And so for me, success is actually seeing a society that is thriving because the entrepreneurs in it are thriving. I strongly believe entrepreneurs are the people who build society. And so if I can do anything to help entrepreneurs fulfill their potential so that we can all live happily ever after, then that's good for me. So doing all of that's the core thing for me, and being able to express myself in that way and just help people in that way, that's the core measure of success for me. Obviously, because I always make it a point to mention this, financial success is a major metric for me as well, because I just want to have the resources to be able to do all the good in the world that I want to do. So yeah.
Well, then the next question here then is if you were Prime Minister for the day.
Oh.
Based on, that you're thinking that entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of our economy and so
Absolutely.
forth. So if you were Prime Minister for the day, and given the political upheaval or unrest or questioning at the moment, so we're talking, May 2026.
Yes.
If June 1st comes around and Davis is Prime Minister for the day, what vote Davis, number one. So what's the number one change you would make that would make a massive difference in people's lives?
Well, the number one change I would make if I was Prime Minister is eliminate taxes for the but for everyone who earns, we're in the United Kingdom, so for everyone who earns below £30,000, no taxes at all, zero. And this is not my original idea. I actually heard it from Jeff Bezos, something along those lines. It was granted an interview, and it was saying, and I was reasoning with it, and I did a bit of research, and it's true. Like the net taxes that is contributed by the people that are the bottom earners in society amounts to less than 3% of the tax revenue generated. But because they are the vast majority of people, it's a vast, if you look at the hardship that they have to go through because they earn so little, like it affects so many people, but if you look at it from the financial side, it doesn't have a massive financial impact. So literally, we can find 3% additional in revenue in other parts of the economy. Now, do not take that to mean I am a tax the rich type of guy. I am a conservative at heart, right? So that's not the dimension. For me, it's first of all for the vast majority of people in society that needs to make ends meet, just eliminate taxes, right? It just puts more money in their pocket. And the second thing I would do for sure is drastically reduce regulation. I believe the United Kingdom is an over-regulated economy. There's too much regulation, and regulation stifles innovation. Regulation stifles entrepreneurs. And I believe that entrepreneurs, if you give entrepreneurs a choice between slightly lower taxes and lower regulation, they will choose lower regulation all day long. Because if you just take the shackles off, we can do so much more. I mean, those two things would be a lot of things to do in one day, but I think it would be a good place to start.
Or you could just fire yourself and just delegate it out so it gets done. So that's probably the better way to do it. But okay. So let's get into some weird questions then. So if you were a food, what type of food would you be?
I don't know.
And why?
I think that's a weird one. I'll probably be a rice, because everybody eats rice. Like, it's present in every culture, and there's always a variation. And there's a reason why I jumped to that, because I'm very selective with food, just the same way I'm selective with music. Not because I have allergies or anything. I have no allergies. I'm just not very adventurous when it comes to food. And as a Nigerian, I was brought up on a lot of rice, right? So when I get into new cultures and I don't understand the food, there are two things I look for: rice and meat. Right. So long as there's meat or there's rice, I'm taken care of. So yeah, I'll probably be rice.
Be rice. Okay. All right. If you were legacy is, I mean, I'm quite a lot older than you, but legacy would mean different things to different people at different stages of their life.
Absolutely.
So what would be the legacy you would like to create that would make you? What would be the legacy that you would like to leave?
I think that's a deep one. So I think for me, and this is a standard that I hold myself to, which is also something I try to transmit to other people on a day-to-day basis. And when I think about it from a legacy standpoint, if everybody on the earth could live their lives that way, I'll be satisfied. And I had a hand or two, something to do with all of that. That would be great. And that's the fact that I strongly believe that a lot of us do not tap into our God essence. It's probably one of the reasons why I love being an entrepreneur so much, because like, you imagine a thing in your head and you can literally bring it to life, right? And that's what I call like your God essence. Like, you could play God, right? But a lot of people just do not live at that level, right? They don't live at that level. They do not think about possibilities and do things to bring about those possibilities. And so for me, it's one of the reasons why I love entrepreneurship so much, because you can literally have something that doesn't exist, you envision it in your mind, and you go about bringing it to life, and it will come to life. And if everyone in society could live that way, I think we're going to have a very beautiful world.
Yeah.
But if you keep flogging a dead horse, it's not going to come back to life, right? Now, there is place for, we haven't tried all that we could try, or there's something on the horizon that we just need to be patient about. There is space for that, but you got to be pretty clear around what that opportunity is and what is on the horizon, and you have to make sure that you have done everything that you can do on your own part to be ready for the opportunity or to posture for that opportunity. But if it's one of those where you have taken it around the block, you have done everything you can, and it's just not working, the quicker you kill it, the better. I say to entrepreneurs sometimes, you are a living organism. Do not assume that you are not. Even a tree grows and evolves. You as an entrepreneur will grow and evolve. Entrepreneurs, sometimes we feel like our business is our identity, and the entirety of our identity is wrapped up in our business. And so if the business goes away, our identity goes away. It's not true. You can create a new identity tomorrow, right? And people have the memory of a goldfish. We would forget, and we will remember the new thing, and we would relate with you as the new thing. So I think sometimes it's just people holding on to that ego. How do I go back to the market, and how do I look where, like, people think I'm not successful? No, nobody really cares. We don't think about you that much, trust me.
Yeah, I mean, the speed in which information comes now is extraordinary. So,
Absolutely.
like, you know, what consumes you in, you know, like, and this comes down to, like, I think resilience, and a lot of the time, you know, nowadays, I don't think resilience is a key in anything. There's always blame or mistrust or trust or not trust, or it must be somebody else's fault, or it's the government's fault. It's too hot, it's too cold, whatever it is. So, and we're missing that resilience. And this is the thing that you were just saying here is when somebody makes that decision about, okay, I'm gonna start a business. All right, because I'm passionate about it. All right, and they start learning little bits and pieces. You go YouTube and all that sort of stuff to get some basic ideas. What is your opinion or about actually getting help early on from outside sources? Because, like, you know, people resist this because they see it as a cost. All right, I personally, I did when I started my businesses too. You know, like, I've run a couple of 8-figure businesses.
Yeah.
So, and when you start a business, like, that money is like, it's sacred, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I can use that for something better. And if I'm going to start, you know, getting outside help, oh no, I'm not gonna have that as a cost on my bottom line.
Yeah.
So if in hindsight, how important do you think getting outside help early on to grow a business, as opposed to, like, really holding on to your cash and then, you know, really, you know?
So I think it is very important to get outside help. It is all. I mean, to be fair, it's also important to hold on to your cash and use it in the right way. But again, the emphasis there is the right way.
Yeah.
So whether it is the use of cash or getting outside help, it's getting the right help, the right information.
Yeah.
So take it one after the other. Outside help is so crucial, especially early on, because you do not have perspective.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur starting out, you have an idea, you have a feeling about something, you believe that it's going to work. Well, the market doesn't bow to you. Your belief does not shape the market. The market is the market. Right? So you may believe that this is set of assumptions are true. Until you test them against the market, you're just fooling yourself or hyping yourself up. Now, your assumptions might turn out to be true. In fact, that is what we hope. But if they are untrue, then you've got to rework them. But the reason why it's important for you to then get that outside perspective is that you're getting the perspective of somebody that is not you, outside of the realms of your thought processes and your ideas. Plus, you're getting help from people that have seen that movie time and time and time again. So whether it is getting help in terms of strategy, in terms of finance, in terms of fundraising, in terms of, you know, product development, in terms of orchestrating a sales cycle, it is very essential. My first business failed because I thought, oh, I've been reading all those books and watching all those seminars. I know about business now. I'm going to just go it myself. I started the business alone. It died alone. Right? My second business, though, was actually born, the successful one, Enterprise Hill, which was started in 2015, was actually born in traffic. I sat with a mentor in traffic for 3 hours. We were stuck in traffic. And it was a perfect opportunity for her to just ask me about my life.
Yeah.
And I started talking about my life, and she was saying, "Oh, well, but that wouldn't have worked. That wouldn't work. I see the reason why it didn't work because of this, because of that. But you've actually got a skill here and a skill there, and there are so many businesses that need this kind of help. Like, I literally didn't come up with the idea for my business. It was the mentor, because she had listened to my experiences, my skill set. She was the one that would help me see how I could utilize my skill set and my knowledge to help a market that actually had a need. And that happened in 3 hour traffic. In fact, I remember the day, 31st of October 2014. Because it was from then I started doing the ideation work and planning and whatnot before I launched the business in January 2015. But I just tell that story to highlight the importance of outside perspective. Because if you get that perspective, it just gives you, it adds other people's experiences to yours. You get to glean, I meant to say, from all the different perspectives and experiences and realities that those people have experienced. It's a smart thing to do. Just make sure that you're speaking to the right people.
Yeah. I think that's probably the key here is like, I think so many people get burnt. They spend money,
Sure.
and they spend money on the wrong people or the wrong idea or the wrong, quick get rich quick
Absolutely.
scheme.
Yeah.
We can get you like 1 million views tomorrow, ego metrics. So we don't want any of that sort of stuff. Experience does actually play quite a big part in actually understanding what your growth is like.
Sure.
So we know for a fact, because we've measured, that a business owner will always do probably 50 to 60 things every week. We know that they're only really good at one thing, maybe two. So what happens is, we draw this line about, above the line is the genius, below the line is all the noise. And so those 50 things. And what happens is people fall, or they suck into the noise, and their genius sucks into the noise as well. So now out of 50 things, your genius is only one of them. And so now you're only 2% effective. How, from an investment point of view, how do you get somebody to realize that they shouldn't do everything, and they should get those outside people, or start to delegate, because that is a way to build a stronger business, which will then be more investable?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at it from an investment perspective, like I said earlier, an investor is invested in an asset. That asset is a system that is designed to create value, deliver value, and capture value. All of that cannot be embedded in one person. Because if it is all embedded in one person, you carry key man risk. And for anyone who watches Shark Tank, you can tell this. Kevin O'Leary says this all the time. What if you step out of here and a truck crushes you, or something along those lines? God forbid. But the point is, if you're going to be raising capital and everything is vested in you, then you're a very risky proposition. And so what you really want is to have systems, to have processes, to have tools that are all joined up, and there are people that are responsible for overseeing those things. And these can be done even at the very earliest stages, because it doesn't necessarily have to mean you have a ton of employees to execute this. Even advisors, even volunteers, if you structure things correctly for your type of business, for your level, then it becomes this well-oiled machine that an investor sees and says, oh, this machine works. We can put some cash input into it, and it's just going to churn out more output. But if they can't see a functional business machinery, and everything is just running around in your head, and they literally have to pry information out of you with a crowbar, right? And it's like they almost have to open up your head to see the business. Then that's definitely a very risky proposition to an investor. And most investors are just going to say, no, thank you, because guess what? They're not short of options. There's so many options out there for investors. So you're either building a business that is investable, that is systemized, that is process-driven, that works outside of you, or you're just playing your own game.
So given the fact that you need to create systems and all that sort of stuff, it becomes quite, well, for a solopreneur or even one or two people in the business, it almost is irrelevant. How do you go about, like, telling somebody you've got to build a system, and how do you make that so that they don't get overwhelmed or full of anxiety or all these things? How do you detach from, from that to make your business a business and not just, like sometimes a well-paying job, other times it's a very low-paid,
No-paying job.
no money job, right? So, and this becomes like, how do you do that? Like, because a business owner knows just about everything they need to know. And it's like, it's very confusing to actually go, well, what is a system? Out of like 1,000 things that I know, what is the system that I can teach somebody? And
Absolutely.
And how much value does that actually give the business?
I think the answer is simple but not easy, right? Because something can be like what is to be done is very easy to know. Like so that's what I mean by simple. It's easy to understand, but executing is a different subject matter entirely. And these are not my must things. So the very first thing I would say to an entrepreneur, if they say to me the question you just asked, I would say number one, build your business as a department on your computer. So just your file sharing system, whatever your folders that you save your documents in, organize them into business departments. Accounting, marketing, human resources, sales, whatever work for your business. So all your documentation should be organized along those lines in those folders. For me, that's always step one, right? Because that gives you a semblance of structure. Not structure, a semblance of it. The second layer, though, is you then pouring out your spirit on paper. I say it that way because I recently had to go through that exercise myself. But essentially, the point is, there are lots of things that you do on a day-to-day basis that are judgment calls on different parts of the business. You need to be able to document the methodology for those judgments. So how you work with clients, there's a way you work with them that gets the result. It's called a methodology. It's unique to you. You don't think much of it because it lives in your head. You feel, oh, I can just do this for people.
Yeah.
You need to be able to document that and get other people in the team to do the same thing, right? Whether it is your client servicing or your customer acquisition or the content that you create, whatever it is that makes up the entirety of your business, it has to be documented in a process, in a methodology. Some of those things are things that you can share with everybody in the team. Some of those things are things that you have to guard closely because they are the core methodologies of the business. But either ways, they have to be documented. Now, when they are documented and it's clear what the judgment criteria are, what the core parameters for decisions are, what the heuristics are, if this, then that. Once all of that is clearly mapped out, then I think the third thing I would tell the entrepreneur to then do is then look for tools that simplify and connect, automate and connect. So if you can get 2-3 tools that connect everything together for different processes, then that's great. And so, especially in this day and age, there are loads of tools, lots of resources, AI this, AI that you can utilize.
Yeah.
But it's like finding a needle in a haystack in some instances. So,
Yeah.
but it would be that. So organize first from the starting point, then document, then systemize.
Yeah. Are we getting paralyzed by so many tools in the marketplace?
Oh, I think so. For a lot of people, I think so. Because it's quite interesting. That thing I was saying earlier about tapping into your gut essence? Not a lot of people are aware.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people do stuff because it's there to be done. Oh, they say, oh, there's this new tool, this is the in thing now. It will do everything for you end to end. Oh, great. I'm going to find out about it. I'm going to use it and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there are layers to execution. So, for example, I'll give you a typical example. A lot of people say, oh, there's this new AI tool. Whichever AI tool, however great it is, it would do everything from end to end.
Yeah.
Well, end to end, as of today, even as we speak right now, in many AI tools, is good enough. But there are a crop of people that good enough is not good enough for, right? I personally hold myself to a very high standard of excellence. For any piece of work to leave my desk or my organization to go out to an external party, it has to be an exceptional piece of document. I can't be having long hem dashes, you know, and things that are just not natural, right? So it might be good enough for a lot of people, but there is a crop of people that good enough is not good enough for. And so that's to your question around, are we getting paralyzed by these tools? Yes, because a lot of people are delegating thinking to machines. A lot of people are delegating critical things to machines. Now, I'm not, trust me when I say I am pro AI and pro technology. I want to leverage it as best as I can, but there are limits, right? There are parts that the technology would not get to. It can be in the temple. There's a holiest of holies, to use biblical analogies. You know, there are parts where that is a domain of thought. I think that when people lose the power of critical thought, critical thinking, who knows where we're going?
Yeah. One action point and one piece of advice.
Okay.
That you would like to leave anybody or everybody or one person in particular, if you want to point them out. I don't care who it is, but one piece of each of those.
So one action point.
Yeah.
And one piece of advice.
Yeah. What would be that number one action that people should do every day? And what is the advice that you would give to any aspiring entrepreneur or business owner? Business owner could be, been in business for 40 years, for example. What is that one piece of advice in this day and age that would make a big difference to these entrepreneurs?
Oh, well, daily action point, my brain automatically goes to the highest value habit you can have, and for me that would be faith. So it would be pray and study scripture. Why does that matter for me? Because that's something I strive to do on a daily basis. I strongly believe that I'm on earth to do God's work. I will listen to my master and speak to him and tell him how it's going. I tell him today was rough, man, or today was great. And then studying scripture just get me deeper into the mind of God, and it's worked so well for me. And if I was going to advise anybody, it would be on a daily basis study and study your Bible and pray. So that would be a daily habit. And even if you're not Christian, just you sort yourself out. The second thing, which is a piece of advice to entrepreneurs, well, this is something I've been speaking to. It's been top of mind for me of late because I've been saying a lot in some of my recent speaking engagements. Obsess over demand. Obsess over demand. Because a lot of us entrepreneurs, in fact, I would go as far as to say 99% of us entrepreneurs, we all begin our journey from the supply side. I've got this skill, I can monetize it. Oh, there's that problem, I can solve it. Oh, I've got this experience, I could build a business out of it.
Yeah.
We almost always begin business from the supply side because that's what we're familiar with.
Yeah.
And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But a successful business is a business that's got a functional demand engine. And demand does not come naturally to us. Supply comes naturally to us, demand doesn't. So, in fact, if I could go back into my entrepreneurial journey, like my early days as an entrepreneur, and there was one thing I could do all over again, it is this. It is learning demand. Learning how to engineer demand, how to build a predictable sales revenue generating system.
Yeah.
Because if you don't obsess over it, you can't have a structured system that is predictable.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, business is always going to be, mountains and valleys, peaks
Yeah.
and troughs, and all these ups and downs.
Yeah.
But if you can build predictability, it becomes an engine that you can feed inputs into,
Yeah.
and you can predict what the outcome is going to be. So for me, the one thing I would say to all entrepreneurs, because I strongly believe if every single entrepreneur obsessed over demand,
Yeah.
we would have way more successful businesses and growing
Yeah.
businesses and scale ups and all these things.
Yeah.
But a lot of us just, this is what I know how to do. It's the supply, it's the
Yeah.
skill, it's the that. So yeah, that would be my one piece of advice.
Okay, great. Well, you know that I've authored a book called Lifetime Value, and it's about getting your business to be customer-centric. So that sort of ties beautifully into the
absolutely.
demand aspect of things, because when you start to understand how many times a client or a customer is going to come back and for how long, and then you go, what if they could stay for 5 years
Yeah,
and they come every week? Man, that would be like
absolutely,
fantastic business to be in and predictable.
absolutely.
But you've got to create value
On an ongoing basis.
on an ongoing
for them.
basis.
Yeah.
So
I don't. I think people can figure out value creation very easily,
yeah,
but you gotta have a demand
You
to serve the
you've got
value.
to keep them coming back. Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's a bit of a mismatch.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and the other thing about predictability in there is if you can predict what's going to happen and get your crystal ball out and make it actually happen, that's
Happy days.
Yeah, happy days for sure. So yeah, so they're really, really good points and really good piece of advice to give anybody. It doesn't matter how long in business, and like I learnt, it took me a while to learn that when I was doing my business.
Yeah.
It took me a long while until somebody says I can't afford it, and I said, well, can you afford to pay, $25 per week? And they go, yeah, I can afford $25 per week. This is, well, if you could afford $25 per week for a whole
That's
year,
exactly the same thing.
there's the customer lifetime value. You're going to stay with me for at least a year,
Mm-hmm.
and potentially going to buy other products, or you're going to tell other people to come
About-
in,
yeah.
and all these other things. So you're starting to create that demand or that ecosystem of value.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very important to. That's a very, very good, important piece of advice to give anybody. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we've got Tim Ferris to thank for this next question, which is, if you were a spirit animal, what would it be? But I'm not going to ask you if you were a spirit animal. What I'm going to ask you is, if you were actually reincarnated as an animal, what animal would you be?
I don't know. So again, I'm not really big into animals, but I think I'll probably say an eagles, because they talk a lot. Everybody says great things about eagles, and they've got great vision, and they're majestic, and they soar and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I'll probably say eagle. Yeah, generally speaking, besides the eagle, what other animal have I ever? Oh, I mean, I like horses, because I just feel they have a majestic presence to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably say an eagle. Yeah.
All right. And one last action point. What action point? What should somebody do today if they're an entrepreneur? Just one thing.
Take action.
Take action.
Whatever's on your to-do list, take action.
Take action.
For the longest time in my life, my quote used to be "Doing makes a difference," because "do" obviously is my the acronym of my name, or the initials spells "do." So I just always say "Doing makes a difference." But it's true. Yeah, the difference between whatever it is you've envisioned and where you are right now is the action in between. So whatever it is that is on your table right now, just do it. Right. Don't moan about it. Don't sleep over it. Don't overanalyze it. Don't over plan around it. Just do it.
Yeah. So I've actually interviewed some quite successful people in the past, because I wanted to know what success, what does success look like, and for multi-million turnover businesses, the directors or business owners of those, there was one question I asked about decision making. How quickly do you make decisions, and do you care about, or do you take into consideration your family, your employees, or anything like that when you make that decision?
Absolutely.
You know what? The answer for all of them, there's probably about 40 of them that I asked that question.
Yeah.
They all said, I make decisions and I don't care what anybody else says.
Interesting.
All right? And they make decisions like immediately.
Interesting.
All right? And they're all turning over
Multi-million
businesses.
It's quite an interesting viewpoint because, again, I guess, again, it would come down to the nature of the decision in question.
Yeah.
But for me personally, every decision that I make is tainted with the lens or comes, like, I'm viewing it from not just the lens of how does this benefit me, but also the things that we've set out to do as a family, the things that we've set out to do as a team, myself and my employees, and the commitments that we've made.
Yeah.
Every decision that I make must sort of like check all of those boxes.
Yeah. But is that a fundamental core that you just don't think about anymore?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And that's the reason why people make decisions very quickly.
Exactly, because it's baked into me. I know those things by default.
Yeah.
And so if a decision comes to my table, I immediately can flag. It's not a matter of analysis. No, it's just I can immediately flag, oh, this would not work because of that.
Yeah.
Or that will work because of that. Or this is perfect because it aligns with X, Y, Z. So, I believe in making decisions quickly. They just have to be the right decisions. They have to align with the core priorities.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it comes down to, from your perspective, when you're getting people ready for investment, it's like they've got to have that core, the character, capability.
Absolutely.
And they've got to know the numbers.
Definitely.
They've got to know pretty much everything. And then when somebody fires that question and says, okay, well, how are you going to grow? You know, what does next year's numbers look like? What is this? And you're in that position as an entrepreneur that you're coming from a point of view of knowing and 100% understanding what your business is about and what your growth is going to be, what your exit is going to be.
That is so true.
All of these sort of things are going to make a huge, massive impact on the success or not of your business. One last question maybe is about mindset. People get in their own minds. They sometimes blame others. They blame everything around them. What does, like, mindset to me is like super important. I think it's one of the things that we really look for in the people that we work with, because if they have the mindset that they're always blaming something else, it's very difficult to work with that type of person.
Yep.
And the reason why it's difficult is because they never take accountability. And so responsibility is actually doing the stuff, and accountability is actually taking on
ownership of it.
Ownership, right? And if they don't take ownership, then I'm going to be blamed for something. You're going to be blamed for something. Everybody's going to be blamed for something except them.
Absolutely.
So the mindset here, how do we switch? If we have that thing in our heads about, it's the economy, I'm just going to wait, or the Prime Minister is is whatever you want to call him, right? And he's to blame, or whatever like that. So how do we shift? What is maybe the one thing when you wake up every morning to stick yourself into that mindset that you're going to achieve what you need to achieve today? What is that one click that you made?
So for me, I think, first of all, the subject matter of mindset comes from a place of, goes back to values. Like I was saying to you earlier, everything comes from values. Because if you do not have agency, as a value. Like and what I mean by agency is the knowing that everything that happens to you happens because of you. Like it's nobody's fault, it's your fault.
Yeah.
It's nobody's credit, it's your credit. Like you are the master of your own ship, you're the captain of your own destiny. Like you make it happen. If it happens,
Yeah.
it was you.
Yeah.
If it didn't happen, it was you. And so for me, that's agency. It's core to my being and as a person. And so I think generally speaking, from a mindset perspective, if you do not have agency as a core value, then you would always find a reason to blame other people, right? But if it's something that is ingrained in you, then you would put a lot of pressure on yourself and even hold yourself accountable,
Yeah.
generally speaking. And I think that to the substance of the question, on a daily basis, it's just always reminding yourself, whether it is in the place of prayer, in the place of affirmation. People who have all sort of practices. People do meditation, some people do reflections. Again, these are all variations of the same thing. But I think it's always a good practice to begin the day with yourself, right? And you're taking that time to introspect, to pray, to think, to envision, to remind yourself of who you are, and what it is that you need to do on the day, because it just gives you a lot of very positive energy. So yeah, if there was one thing that I would say to people to fix the mindset, it would be spend more time with yourself. Don't wake up in the morning and first thing you grab is your mobile phone, and like the first 2 hours you're just there, right? And that's like your daily practice, because essentially what you're doing is you're waking up in the morning, the first thing you're doing is getting other people's thoughts fed into you,
Yeah.
right? You're not spending enough time with yourself, so you know other people but you don't even know yourself, right? So those are the things I feel that if done would generally put people in better minds.
Yeah, that's really important. So there's the thing about the universe doesn't know whether you're good or bad. They just know the intent that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So if the intent is good, then it will be good, and then you have clarity around the intent. So if you're bad and you want to go down that path, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But but the intent is still there. So that's why some people, like I think when others like judge somebody that they see as successful, they go, I've been doing this for 5 years. I've only been doing it for 2 years. And I've been trying all these different things, and how come they're more successful than me and stuff like that. I think it comes down to what you're saying here is about waking up first thing in the morning and actually coming into what you're all about.
Absolutely.
And then that first thing is the intent that you're setting.
Exactly.
Is like what you're going to get.
True.
The universe will provide, or God,
Absolutely.
or whoever
Whatever you believe in.
Right? Let's put it out there, But the whole thing is about intent and going through that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything that you would like to say that I haven't asked you questions that you think that would have a benefit to entrepreneurs, or if any investors are watching or listening, then what type of entrepreneurs should we be providing them, and what type of investors should we align with?
No, I think we've covered a lot, and thank you for such great questions. I've enjoyed myself having this conversation. If I just to wrap up with one thing, it would just be that we're all looking for the same thing, right? And the reason why I always say that is sometimes the pursuit of our dreams and visions and whatnot, if we don't, guard them carefully, sometimes can make us antagonistic to other people. And you then begin to see the world as a zero-sum game of me versus them, founder versus investor, us versus competitors, and things of that nature. I think it's a very unhealthy way to live life. I think that ultimately we all want the same thing, and there is more than enough in the world for everybody.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not worth it to and I actually learned this the hard way, but it's not worth it to pull people down so you can climb.
Yeah.
However nice you think it sounds, it's not worth it. So treat people nicely, even as you build your business. Treat people nicely, respect people, be kind, be nice, love other people. Yeah, and I think that's a recipe for us all living happily ever after. Hopefully.
Sounds like a Disney movie at the end of the day.
Thank you so much
All
for
right.
having me.
Thanks for coming, man, and thanks for participating. This has been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay. All the details about Davis' business and contact details would be on in the scripting below. So just make sure that you connect with Davis if you liked what he had to say, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.